Welcome to Across the Curve.
When you line up safety, leadership, and excellence, that opens the door for lots of guests. And I personally feel that, there can't be a more valiant effort in the world than to protect and save lives. We hope the time that you spend with us will help you to understand how the future of work is shifting and what we can expect the workplace to look like in the coming years. Our guest today is Elliot Massey. Our guest today is Michael Yaffe. Angel is the VP of Global Human Resources at AdCourt Incorporated. Don is an executive safety and risk management professional with 4 decades of experience. Chester has been called the Apostle of Appreciation by Canada's Globe and Mail. Derek is an Emmy award-winning writer, producer, director, and actor. We hope the time you spend with us will help you to understand how storytelling is a key to learning.
Boy, storytelling is a wonderful topic, and let's explore the story.
Welcome to Across the Curve with Craig Sexton. Sponsored by DSS Plus, transforming business results through the development of a safe, efficient, and capable workforce. DSS Plus, protect, transform, sustain. Your host today has over 3 decades of experience in the entertainment industry from Los Angeles to New York. He is an award-winning writer, producer, and director. He has been recognized for his extensive work around the affective approach and communicating from the heart. He brings his talents to bear at DSS Plus with breakthroughs in communication, employee engagement, and culture transformation. He is everybody's best friend and soon to be yours. Craig Sexton.
Hello, and welcome to Across the Curve podcast. My name is Craig Sexton. I'm the Global Creative Director here at DSS Plus, and we really hope the time that you spend with us will help you to understand how coaching is linked to culture transformation as we discuss this topic with our guest today. But before we do, I'd like to say hello to my producer extraordinaire, Jay Gates. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Craig. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not sure what time zone we're all in right now as we all get crazy with it, but feeling good. You're looking good. Loving the hair, man. It's looking very nice this morning, this afternoon. Between your hair and my beard, I think we could start a bluegrass band. What do you think?
Probably. I don't know that my hair is cooperating today. You know what they say, good hair, good podcast. But so that's yet to prove itself out. But let's
I'm looking at that and I'm thinking this is going to be a great episode. Just from that start alone.
It's going to be a great episode because we have an amazing guest with us. And Jay, I just want to jump right in because I want to use every second of our podcast to really talk to this individual because, he's a special guy. And our guest today, on that note, is Alfredo Karam. Alfredo is a human being. He's a facilitator, a passionate leader, and an apprentice of life, and he's a recovering engineer. He has developed his professional life to help unlock the potential of others. Alfredo has over 15 years of experience as a visionary organizational development leader known for enabling business growth through culture transformation and leadership development focused on company values, strategies, and business goals. Also, he's certified as a Lego Serious Play facilitator. He's a visual facilitator, professional coach accredited by the International Coaching Federation, as well as Dare to Lead facilitator based on Brene Brown's research. Alfredo has demonstrated a unique set of talent to influence and inspire others into their personal transformation journey. He believes self-improvement is a way to continuously innovate growth. So, welcome to the show, Alfredo. We are delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Craig. Always a pleasure to be here with you and have a nice conversation. Love to be with your audience in this podcast. Interesting to hear and talk about the topic today.
Well, it's going to be a great topic. Okay, there's two things I want to talk to you about just really quick right off the bat. Why don't we discuss? I think everybody ears probably perked up when they heard the word Lego Serious Play Facilitator. So, quickly, just tell us about that. What is a Lego Facilitator?
Well, Lego is a methodology, it's a process, it's a way to communicate with leaders in a serious way, but also in a playful manner. And it allows us to unlock our innovation, our creativity. It brings an ability to see problems in the physical world. So we often have this with leaders. We play, but we learn. And once we play and learn, this creates a rewiring of the mind and anchors all the learning that we do in our workshops when we're doing a Lego Serious Play session.
That's crazy. Like, who knew that you could actually become a certified Lego facilitator? I mean, I think that's fascinating. In all transparency, you and I have done many deliveries together with clients around the world. So you and I are used to being together and working together. I've seen you do this, and it is just really fascinating and great work. And boy, it's super engaging for the clients that I've seen you facilitate for. Let me ask you one other quick question here before we get started. Recovering engineer, I think that's another one that probably made our audience's ears perk up. So explain yourself, sir.
Sure. Well, you might be wondering what does an engineer have to do with culture transformation, leadership? So for me, this was an aha moment 10 years ago when I really realized that in order to achieve the results that we're looking for, the innovation is in the integration. It's putting your technical skills together with what we call human skills. And I think this is where I believe that more and more, as we understand how we change as individuals, how we rewire our mindset, I think that's the ability for us to really transform our culture.
Right. That's interesting. Hey, well, thank you again for being here. So let's just jump into the really the big stuff that we want to talk about, which is coaching and leadership. I think one of the interesting things here is, well, let me just ask you this first question. Like, when simply defined, one of the things I get to do is I get to talk to leaders all over the world on this podcast, from all different industries. And, it's one of the great parts of my job. And I love to ask them this question, as simple as it may be. You would be surprised at the variety of answers that I get. But so I'm going to pose it to you, Alfredo. What is leadership?
I think that's a very interesting question. And I think my definition really connects with what Brené Brown defines as leadership. Leadership is not about a title. Leadership is about anybody who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and in processes and has the courage to develop that potential. And I think she describes this in a very, very interesting way, because it doesn't matter where in the organization you are. It's not about your title. It's about who you are. And I think this connects very well, Craig, with what you and I have been working. It's about believing in people. And once you believe in somebody, you empower that person to unlock their human potential.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, right? I think one of the greatest ways to create teams and create followers, as a leader, is by believing in them. But one of your special skills here, and I think our audience is going to find this really interesting, is really one of the things that you have kind of excelled at here, is that you are now looked to coach the coach of the team, right? And I'm referring to CEOs and leaders of organizations. And, when I think of leaders of organizations, they're kind of like the coach of a football team. They're the coach of a sports team. But, there's got to be something a little more delicate or interesting. I'd like you to share, with us, how do you coach a coach, right? How do you coach the guy who's already supposed to have all the answers? How do you coach the person who's at the top of the organization, who's already supposed to be leading, that other people are already looking up to? Do you find that leaders and coaches of organizations need coaching?
So the quick answer is yes. I think everybody that wants more in their professional and personal life, I think partnering with a coach is one of the vehicles that we now see more and more leaders from the tech industry to manufacturing industry really having a coach. And here's the interesting topic that I would love to share with your audience, Greg, is what is coaching? And I think this is the first thing that when I went through my process of transformation, that was my first aha moment. Coaching is not about coaching on the problem, not coaching on the situation. Coaching is about coaching the individual. And I think this is very critical because if we know what coaching is, then we can actually understand why it doesn't matter if you're coaching the CEO or the supervisor or the manager. You're actually allowing the person to think through a creative partnership and process. And I think that's the key. You're not advising them. That's consulting, that's facilitation. A coach really uses a process, a series of questions, a series of competencies that allow your coachee to really think, to unlock that human potential that we all have.
Wow. So let me ask you this, Alfredo.
Yes.
I would think, this just would be my thought process, that there would be a big difference if I was walking into a leader's office for a coaching session. Let's just say he's the CEO of an organization. And look, I don't want you to share anything personal or about any organization in particular, but is there a difference in the way that you coach a CEO? And I know that you've done that with many organizations than you would, let's say, the rank and file. Is there a different style? Is there a different approach that you take?
Of course, there's a different style, and it's not because of the title. I think it's because of the individuals. And I think this is the key part again. Some executives have a very strategic form of thinking. Other CEOs might have a more creative way of thinking, but it's really you as a coach need to have this ability to adapt to your coachee. And this is where the important part of understanding that you're coaching a human being, not the title, I think is critical to understand how you can partner with them. Every single one of my coachees, what they really appreciate is that you're talking with them. You're not talking to them. You're not another advisor. You're not another mentor. You're not giving advices on how to solve a problem. You're really creating this partnership where they have the space and the time to focus on themselves in order to help them improve themselves.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, I mean, so you're really not focusing on a different strategy. You're just really focusing on the personal aspect of that. Am I hearing you correctly there?
Yes, Craig. And I think this is where you see very good and successful coaches that sometimes you don't need to be the subject matter expert on the situation or the issue. You're the expert in your domain on how to coach an executive, a leader, a professional. And I think more and more, when you're not the subject matter expert, you remove yourself from the center of giving advice and you actually remain more focused on the individual, on what they want to achieve, how they want to move forward. So I think this is a shift in paradox, because a lot of times we have this conception that being a coach is like being a sport coach, or you give advice and you tell them what to do. But I think if you really understand that the CEOs and people that are in leadership position have a lot of experience, I think this is where you help them really break barriers, achieve what they want, refocus and align in their sense of purpose. And once they do that, they have all the resources available to achieve that.
Right. Have you found that all leaders or all CEOs or need coaches? I mean, do you find it's something that's valuable almost in every situation?
I do. But I also know that coaching should not be mandatory. Coaching is for people, individuals that want more, not because they were trying just to fix problems. It's because they want to really go beyond where they have achieved it. So I believe that a coach is really just a guide in a process. But the person that really does all the work, Craig, between you and I, is really the coachee. because
Right.
they have to do the thinking. They have to process what is stopping them from achieving their desires. And I think once you flip the conversation and you put the spot on them, then they realize that they have the power to change and to create that new culture, the new environment, the new desired result they want.
Wow. So that really does kind of play into facilitation, right? It
Yes.
sounds like more of what you're doing is providing the sandbox that they can play in, they can grow in, they can learn in. You're just providing that format. Am I on the right path?
Yes, Craig. And one of the things I often joke with my bosses is a good coach in the very first session is trying to get fired. Because because
I
if
hope
you're
that
doing
hasn't
your
happened to you.
job, no, because if you're doing your job, you're empowering the coachee to realize that they have the power. You're not creating dependency. You are creating this independent interdependency. And you're very familiar with the Bradley curve. So coaching is really a vehicle to move people from a dependent phase to the independent interdependent phase. If
What?
you as a coach are with your coachee for years and years, you just create a dependency for that coachee to you as a coach.
Right, right, right. Well, I mean, it's interesting that you say that. That's the name of our podcast, right? We call it Across the Curve, and we're referring to the DSS Plus Bradley curve of moving people and organizations across that curve, whether it's in operational excellence or safety or leadership. And it sounds like that's exactly your strategy, is to move them across that curve. Let me ask you this. I think one of the unique things about what you and I get to do, Alfredo, is we get to actually be inside, boots on the ground in organizations, and we get exposure to CEOs and COOs and leaders at almost every level, from the site floor all the way up to the C-suite. So, my question to you is, what have you learned about coaching? I mean, I find, that I've learned so much about leadership just by working with, the organizations that we work with. What have you learned about coaching?
So one of the things that I learned through coaching, again, is that everybody that you're coaching is a human being, that no matter where you are in the organization, you still have fears, you still have doubts, you still have barriers, you still create stories in your mind. Some do it better, some do it a little bit worse. But at the end, if you think about, no matter where you are in any position in any organization, you still have desires. So I think for me, the aha moment is when you take away all those ranks and you see the person for the person itself, that's when you can really start supporting and helping. And it goes both ways. One, for me as a coach, not be intimidated with a rank, and also as a coachee, not to show that you're there because you're the CEO. You're there because you're the human being that really wants to work the process and struggle with the things and wrestle with what you're trying to achieve.
Wow, that's great. Well, look, I want to ask you the other question, the other side of that question. So not only what have you learned about coaching, but what have you learned to avoid? Is there something working with a client or that you learned that was really unexpected to you, or something that we should think about or our audience should think about when it comes to coaching, things to avoid?
Sure. I think it's avoiding not asking permission. So every time you're doing a coaching session and you're going to explore with a coachee, always ask permission, especially when you're going deeper into personal matters around their style, around how they lead the organization, and ask permission because you want to create rapport. You want to create this empathy between you and your coachee so that they feel a safe space in this conversation, that you're not judging them, you're not trying to fix them, you're not trying to impose your ideas. So for me, one of the big no-nos is when you break rapport, just ask forgiveness and restart. So I think this is key.
Yeah. So look, I know the listeners out there are thinking, okay, Alfredo, what does that sound like? I mean, use me as an example. If you're going deeper with me in a coaching session and you're asking permission, what does permission sound like? Like, what is that question?
Well, Craig, as we're going through this process, I would love to ask you three very powerful questions that I normally Would you allow me to play with you?
Sure.
So, Jay, I think you can pull up slide number 9, which is really very important to us as the audience is seeing, because it really captures 3 powerful questions. I often start our sessions with, what do you want? If you as a leader, if you as your coachee don't know what you want to achieve in the coaching session, it's going to be very hard to achieve that. And once you know what you want, and I probe and I struggle with them to really define what you really want, then I ask the second question, which is, why is this important to you? And I really let that simmer there, because what you're trying to do is, why do you want to achieve that? And then finally, how will you know you're being successful? For me, Craig, these are 3 magical questions that really allow us to break and create rapport and really start the conversation. Because once the coachee knows what they want, that's what I can see in their eyes, that they really want to achieve this and they are eager to put in the work.
Wow, that kind of plays to the point of, you need to establish the destination, right? Like, it's hard to get somewhere. It's hard to get anywhere if you don't know where you're going, right? And it seems like those are 3 really important questions for our audience. If you're trying to get somewhere, if you're actually trying to make this journey, you need to kind of establish why you want to make that journey. Why is this journey important to you? And then how will you know if you're succeeding, or how will you know when you get there? That's really, really fantastic.
Craig, let me add here, because you're talking about this journey. This really ties into what you and I have been working with most of our clients, culture transformation. And you coming from the industry of movies, the hero's journey.
Sure.
And I think this is key that you share with your audience, this idea that you're moving them from where they are and having that clarity of where they want to go. That's where the journey begins.
Yep. I couldn't agree with you more. So what are some of the tools that you use in culture transformation? Maybe we should even back that question up just a little bit with, in your eyes, what is culture transformation, and what role does the leader play in that? But then I want you to follow it up with, what are some of the tools that you use to create culture transformation, especially in leaders?
Well, I think there's no better visual that when we talk about culture transformation, to think about it as a journey. And this is where often leaders might not understand this. They see it as a project, and as a project that has a start and an end. And if you think about it, you're really understanding what is the norm. This is your current state, your culture, where you are. Then there has to be a call to adventure. Some other methodologies, they call it a burning platform. I like to call it an adventure, because changing what you have in order to have something better requires courage of leaders to leap forward. And I think this is where leaders play a crucial role. Leaders are called to think differently and to take the courage to move an organization from where they are, to think differently and show the possibilities of what could be achieved. And in the journey, of course, there's going to be mentors, there's going to be advisors, there's going to be coaches that help that leader navigate through this transformation. But above all, you're communicating the vision, you're preparing the organization, you get their commitment, you implement, and then you sustain the change. I think this is key as you're going through this process. Correct.
Yeah, that's fascinating, right? So, culture transformation is really one of the key things that's on so many leaders' minds these days. We often say, Alfredo, safety is the Trojan horse for culture transformation in lots of organizations. However, it doesn't have to be. What role does a leader play in culture transformation?
I think a leader is really the person that inspires change. And I think this is one of the things that, as I've been working with a lot of leaders around the world, leaders are becoming managers. And that's good, because you're managing the business, you're managing the financial part. But I also believe that leaders should inspire, should rally people to achieve something that has never been achieved. And I think that's the missing part, that I believe that is a critical role that every leader should have. Inspire them of, why do we want to do culture transformation, especially in safety or in any other transformation, and really sell that story, that vision. And I think, Craig, you do an amazing job when you talk about you don't sell a story by just PowerPoints and Excels and showing them all the data and figures. You need to inspire them. And I think this is the link with the affective part. You need to reach them not only in their mind, you need to reach them in their heart.
Yeah, we couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's really what we talk about so much here at DSS Plus is the affective approach, going through people's hearts to get to their heads, to change their behaviors as it relates to safety or operational excellence or even leadership, or bringing people along with your vision of moving them across the curve. Let me ask you this, Alfredo. What do you think are the important things leaders should be thinking about today?
I think more and more today, if you think about leadership, it's all about people. And I think more and more as we're going into a more competitive environment and we're starting to see that people want to belong to a company that has a sense of purpose, that inspires them. So I think this is a call to all leaders around the world, is focus on people, because if you have the right people, the right talent, and the right attitude, you can develop whatever skills you want. And I think this is key. You want to have in your team people that want the vision, the end game that you have set for your company. And I don't mean profit. Profit is there. Yes, we need profit to get to our destination. But what is a purpose? What are we trying to achieve? What would happen if my company didn't exist? Would the world be better? Would it be worse?
Right.
And I think this is a rallying part, Craig.
Oh, that's fascinating. Hey, let me just ask you one little fun question here. I mean, you've got an amazing resume and what the things that you've accomplished and the people that you've worked with and the people that you've coached. But if you could turn back the clock, Alfredo, right, and have a chance to have a conversation with your 18-year-old self, what would you say? What would you tell that 18-year-old Alfredo?
Without a doubt, Craig, I would say get into coaching sooner, explore the human skills, because I truly believe that if every engineer in the world had what we call innovation is in the integration, the technical skills, but also the human skills, and our formation would not silo us to be one or the other, that would be my recommendation. I truly believe that as you're developing those skills, those human skills, you become a better human being, not only at work, but also at home.
Well, I think that's great advice for all of us, right? I just think that's fantastic. But hey, Alfredo, I wouldn't want you to change a thing about your journey or your path, or it wouldn't have led you here today. I got to tell you, I could talk to you for hours about this, and Jay, we're going to definitely have to have Alfredo back, because I want to continue this conversation about what leaders do and how to become better leaders. But boy, you have given us a lot of golden nuggets of wisdom here today, Alfredo. Look, I want to thank you for being a guest today. I know how busy you are. So again, let me thank you for your time. And thanks for joining us. I know our listeners feel the same way. Also, I want to give a special thanks to our producer, Jay Gates, and to the rest of the DSS Plus team who have helped us find amazing guests, and all of you for listening in. And don't forget, stay with us after this podcast. Immediately following will be the cleanup led by Jay Gates, and where he'll figure out what I said right or wrong on the show, and we'll get to talk a little bit more about Alfredo and what he had to say. But if you found the information and insights of this podcast helpful, please share it with others who could benefit. And we would love to invite you back for our weekly discussions on Across the Curve, wherever you find your podcast. Thanks so much. My name is Craig Sexton. That's how the story was told to me. Now it's been told to you. Take care.
All right, and here we are going to the cleanup, and Craig, welcome back. Here we are, our favorite segments, and Hey,
I know this is your favorite segment because this is where you get to correct anything I said wrong, or if I elaborated too much,
and
or
I'm
if I exaggerated the truth. Did I, Jay?
absolutely. No, actually, you were really good. I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's very appropriate that we call this the cleanup, and I've got a cleanup crew right outside my window. I don't know if you can hear them, but they knew we were doing the segment. They're ready to help, but I pushed them away. I said, "There's really not much to clean up." I mean, everything was really good. I mean, that was a great podcast. Alfredo was awesome.
I thought it was an audio effect that you were putting in there for the cleanup. Just to,
I'm not that good. I mean, I am.
Hear a weed whacker in the background.
For future episodes, maybe I do that. We need to put together a segment that has a little vacuum comes through, and that wouldn't get annoying real quick.
All right, so deliver the news. How did I do? Did we make any mistakes there? I don't think we had any statistics. That's usually where I go astray is with statistics.
But no, today it was just great, and I was there's nothing for me to write down, so I actually just like our viewers, I was intent, I was listening, I was learning, and I thought it was just fantastic information.
Yeah, Alfredo is such a great guest, and the things that I always kind of really piqued my interest is, a Lego facilitator, right? Who even knew that was a job,
yeah,
right?
Who knew you get to grow up and when you get to grow up and play with toys, it's awesome. But the toys, for learning and for development, it's amazing.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you this, is I have been in the room many times when Alfredo has used a Lego serious play with a room full of C-suite executives. And, at first glance, you're thinking, these are serious men and women in here. They are very busy. Are they going to buy into playing with the Legos today? Because, it could go either way.
Yeah.
Or at least in my mind, I feel like it could really, it could turn on you quickly.
Yeah. But I think that's why it's Legos, because I hear initially he started with Lincoln Logs and it just didn't catch on at all. And so he's like, Legos. I think of the Legos. Who doesn't like Legos?
That's a whole different thing. But I will tell you, I have, having done this, and I not just doing it here in the United States, but we've done it in South America. We've done it literally all around the globe. I have never not seen it go over gangbusters. Right?
Yeah.
He uses it in a way that's a little bit of an icebreaker, but he always draws it back to a really kind of poignant point that he's trying to make around leadership, or especially around teamwork. And working together. And almost in every situation, it becomes one of the things that the participants talk about that they enjoyed the most was, the Lego play. And I think anytime that you can get people out of their seats and get them interacting with each other, it's a great icebreaker, and it's certainly a great example of how to do things. But I always just find it so interesting that Lego serious play is actually a thing.
But those two words next to each other, Lego and serious, it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, it grabs your attention right off the bat.
It does. Hey, but let's since we don't have anything to clean up, which is really is amazing. That
it's a weird feeling over here.
It's a weird feeling, right? I haven't had many podcasts that we don't have to do a lot of scrubbing and cleaning up and correcting, but on this one we don't. So I think we should just use a couple of seconds here, because I thought one of the most interesting things that he said, or that we talked about, was how do you talk to a leader, right? How do you coach a coach? And, and I asked him, and I said, well, what does that sound like? In theory, I guess in our heads, we can understand it, but, what's the actual dialogue? What are the questions? And do you have that slide that you could pull up for me? Because if our viewing audience is out there, I would tell them, hey, grab a screenshot of this. For those that can actually see it and grab a screenshot, I'd grab this. For those of you that are listening, pick up a pencil and write this down. But he says, focus on the coachee, right? And in this graphic, it says, it versus problem thinking. And he says, these are the three questions that when you start a coaching session, and I also found him to be very interesting when I said, what's the difference in coaching a CEO or somebody in a C-suite than coaching somebody in middle management or somewhere in the rank and file? And basically his answer to that was, there's nothing. There's not really any difference. It's really, you're focusing on the person, not on the title. And I found that fascinating and probably really enlightening. But he said these three things, right? There were three questions that he starts by asking. What do you want, right? So what do you want out of this coaching session? And I guess that gets the dialogue going. And again, it puts the weight of the conversation on the coachee. And then he asks them, why is that important to you? Right?
And that makes it very personal. And that's
certainly, like, again, like, so why do you want to achieve this? Right. So you're kind of finding out what you want to do. Why do you want to do it? And then the last question, which I thought was really, really interesting. And I talk about this to lots of people. Like, if you don't know where you're going, it's really difficult to get there. Right. Like, if you don't know where you're going, it's hard to get there. So his third question is, how will you know you are succeeding? And I think that is a really interesting question for a leader to answer.
Self-evaluation at that point. So it's really,
but
how do you know that you're succeeding? You got to feel it.
Yeah, you got to feel it. But how will you know that you're succeeding? Will you judge it by how you're doing it? By how you're doing, or by how your organization is doing? And we use many tools. Of visible leadership is one of the tools that we use at DSS Plus. We have a great delivery that we do around felt leadership that's used all over the world today and in so many organizations. So I think that question is, how do you know when you're succeeding? And I think you're succeeding when you see your culture start to transform, where people genuinely care about each other and look out for each other's well-being. I think those are some real key things. And if you're coaching around OpEx, it's how is your organization functioning? How are they more productive? Are they safer? So I think I just love those three questions, and I think our audience, they should write those down or take a screenshot of them there.
Absolutely. But Jay, keep that on your phone. Take that with you and just have it. I mean,
there you go, my friend.
Great tool.
Hey, buddy. Well, look. I will look forward to being with you on our next podcast. And, I hope our audience will go look for and search for Across the Curve, wherever you find your podcast at. And Jay, that's it for the cleanup. You can always reach us at consultdss.com if you want to learn more about how to coach the coach, or about leadership coaching. consultdss.com, or Jay, they can do it the old-fashioned way. You can pick up the phone and reach us at 1-800-861-7668. And that's it for us on the cleanup. Jay, take care, my friend.
You too, brother. Always a pleasure, and we'll see you on the next one.
Alrighty, buddy.